Very distant.
From the very first simple sketch on paper to countless cartoons. Cartoons aren't just kid stuff. Cartoons are a whole history that changed the entertainment industry and became part of our childhood and our lives. Today, we're starting an amazing journey to relive our memories and see how cartoons evolved from the early days to the shows we watch today. Buckle up, because we're jumping into the most awesome ride in the world of cartoons. Let's kick it off from way back, the 19th century, 1800, when the idea first popped up with a device called the zoetrope, a simple gadget, a cylinder with sequential drawings that spin so they look like they're moving. Then came the phenakistoscope. Hold up guys, this video's got a bunch of tricky terms and names, so I'll put every hard word on the screen. Phenakistoscope, a spinning disc that creates the illusion of motion through slits. That was the basic stage where the idea first showed up. In the photographic era, toward the end of the 19th century, after the invention of photography and cinema, we could film drawings on paper and play them back fast. That's when we started seeing the first real appearance of animation, and the person behind this technique, the first to do it, was Stuart Blackton, who released his film Humorous Phases of Funny Faces in 1906. Then came Phantasmagorie in 1908 by the French director Émile Cohl, and the cartoon idea back then was simple: chalkboard drawing, like sketching a character and then wiping the features and tweaking them so it looks like they smile or move. And a fixed camera was used to capture the scene, not as moving video, but as a sequence of still images played fast so it looks like video. And this technique kept going until the mid-20th century. After that came a person named Winsor McCay, a newspaper and magazine artist, and he presented Gertie the Dinosaur. He developed the idea by moving to drawing on paper, where he drew thousands of static drawings and shot them with a fixed camera. But this process was very tiring because it required drawing thousands of frames by hand.
Then came the idea of cell animation, built on drawing characters on transparent sheets, celluloid, while backgrounds were painted on regular paper. When a scene moves, you only swap the character sheets without touching the background, and that's why in old cartoons the background stays still in so many shots. This approach also made it easier to add some color and later sound, which brought the drawings to life. From there, the work got split up: character artists, background painters, and a dedicated camera team. In that era, you see projects made this way like Steamboat Willie, Silly Symphonies, and Popeye the Sailor. Disney stood out by pushing the technique hard. Steamboat Willie was the first big win for tightly synced sound with picture. Then came a showpiece like Snow White. But Disney wasn't alone. Fleischer Studios delivered icons like Betty Boop and Popeye, though Disney scaled and refined the tech more broadly. Back then, there weren't episode-based cartoon series like today. The model was short theatrical films, shorts around 10 minutes each. Next came a new method from Fleischer Studios called rotoscoping. Film real actors first, then trace over them frame by frame on transparent sheets to give characters realistic motion. Color, however, was tough. Every sheet had to be hand-painted, so it was exhausting and used sparingly. Even so, Disney pushed forward again with Technicolor, boosting color quality and richness during film processing. The tech is complex, but that's the core idea. After that, visuals leveled up with shadows and gradients. Think The Old Mill, 1937, which actually came before Snow White. From there, the big leap began, especially in the late 30s, with standouts like The Old Mill and Gulliver's Travels. Editors also had a primitive kind of montage by literally cutting and splicing the physical film by hand. Then animation got smoother in the early 40s by upping the frame count, bringing classics like Fantasia, Pinocchio, and Dumbo. At the same time, rival studios like Warner Brothers. Animation expanded, launching legendary characters like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck. And MGM Cartoon Studio came in using these techniques and delivered one of the most successful and famous works ever, Tom and Jerry. Then World War II hit, and animation turned into a propaganda tool. Think Der Fuhrer's face. Warner Brothers also rolled out Looney Tunes episodes poking fun at the war, and in that same window, characters like Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck blew up in popularity, while Tom and Jerry kept thriving. But even then, animation hadn't made it to television yet. TV just wasn't common at home. Still, a few smaller companies started floating the idea, but it didn't really land at scale until the 1950s. Once the 50s arrived, television was actually there, air, and a ton of short, repeatable episodes started airing instead of long, continuous features. During this stretch, Hanna-Barbera shook things up, cranking out cartoons faster and cheaper, like these shows, and Disney wasn't really focused on TV series. Their main attention stayed on theatrical films. Worth noting, TVs in that era were black and white even in advanced countries, even though some originals were produced in color. Still, people preferred watching in that classic black and white look for a while. Around the same time, morning kids blocks started spreading, paving the way later for big players like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network. Meanwhile, Disney wasn't as into television as Hanna-Barbera, which focused on moving animation from the cinema screen to the TV screen. And at the same time, anime started showing up gradually, then really took off in the 60s once it hit television. With color TV spreading into homes in the 1960s, we got iconic titles like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, Scooby-Doo, Spider-Man 1967 as his first animated appearance, and the Pink Panther. Through this phase, Hanna-Barbera kept dominating the market, sticking with the same draw-and-shoot production approach, but with better cameras and stronger production. Now we enter the 1970s, the era where television became the primary platform for watching and making cartoons. Hanna-Barbera kept its grip with new hits like Scooby-Doo, Where Are You?, Josie and the Pussycats, and Super Friends. Meanwhile, Japanese anime was evolving fast, with several important titles like these. More importantly, adult-oriented animation showed up for the first time, like Fritz the Cat, 1972, considered the first animated feature made for adults. There was also strong competition from Filmation, which delivered shows like Fat Albert and the Cosby Kids. As for Disney, it wasn't booming in this space in the 70s, but it dropped notable films like Robin Hood and The Rescuers. As color TV spread in the late 70s, it pushed the industry forward and brought computers closer to the workflow. Back then, computers were super expensive, and Disney ran early tests to try computer animation instead of relying on Xerox for copying drawings. In 1979, the first unit inside Lucasfilm was founded, later evolving into Pixar, kicking off early CGI experiments, most notably showcased in Tron. 82. CGI didn't replace hand-drawn animation, it was used for backgrounds, visual effects, and a few complex shots. Then Don Bluth Productions appeared as Disney's strong rival with The Secret of NM 1982, and An American Tail. The 80s were a powerful kickoff for animation and for well-known series like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, DuckTales, and Transformers. And Pixar was still small, making shorts like The Adventures of Andre and Wally B. In the 80s, anime became even more popular, especially with the first appearance of Dragon Ball. Now we reach the 90s, the most important stage in animation and the big leap that happened. I'm not sure where to start, so let's go step by step. In this period, drawing got much easier, and the arrival of the computer helped a lot, especially with coloring, backgrounds, and effects. And all of that started happening inside software instead of real cameras. Powerful programs showed up and made the workflow smoother, such as Adobe Photoshop, Adobe After Effecks, and others. Toon Boom, Autodesk Animator, RenderMan. There was also a blend between 3D and 2D. I won't go too deep into the technical details, but the key is that the progress in that period was a real jump compared to the past. In the 90s, Disney made a huge leap and delivered great films like Tarzan, Aladdin, Beauty and the Beast, The Lion King. They also collaborated with Pixar on coloring, but later Pixar became an independent animation studio and launched Disney's first strong challenger with Toy Story. DreamWorks also appeared with films like The Prince of Egypt, Ants. Meanwhile, Warner Brothers presented the world of superheroes in animation with Batman, the animated series, Animaniacs. On another front, Fox Kids rolled out shows like Spider-Man, X-Men 1992. In the same period, Sony took its first steps in this field, while Blue Sky Studios worked on effects before later releasing its big film, Ice Age. Now we reach the most important part, the rise of Nickelodeon. The 90s were an explosion of fame for Nickelodeon, but the channel actually existed before that. It started in 1977 under the name Cube, airing simple educational programs for kids at that time. Then it changed to Nickelodeon in 1979. In the 80s, Nickelodeon aired older cartoons, and its famous orange logo appeared in the late 80s and became iconic. Its first real success wasn't a cartoon, but a kids game show called Double Dare, and that was its main focus at the beginning. In the 90s, the channel began producing its own cartoons, and that's when the real beginning happened. Rugrats, Ren and Stimpy, Rocko's Modern Life, Hey Arnold, Cat Dog, The Wild Thornberrys. Then the true explosion in popularity came thanks to SpongeBob SquarePants, which became one of the most famous cartoons in history. Nickelodeon's fame wasn't just about targeting kids. On the contrary, it was bold with its ideas and widened its audience to include teens and adults too, while giving creators full freedom. It also expanded into merchandise, video games, and films like the Rugrats movie. And thanks to SpongeBob, Nickelodeon became a global icon of animation alongside Cartoon Network. As for Cartoon Network, it officially launched in 1991.
I want to welcome you to the launch of the world's only and first Cartoon Network.
It already had a huge library from Turner Broadcasting and Hanna-Barbera, packed with classics like Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones. Those shows aired on other channels, but only in limited slots. So the idea clicked. Why not run a channel that plays cartoons 24 hours a day? That smart move made Cartoon Network stand out early on, focusing on classics like Looney Tunes. After that, the channel built its own studio for short pilots. If a short landed, it got upgraded into a full series. From that project came some of the best 90s cartoons: Dexter's Laboratory, Johnny Bravo, the Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd, and Eddy. But in that period, Nickelodeon was leading, especially with the success of the Rugrats movie, even though it wasn't a cartoons-only channel like Cartoon Network. In the 90s, other studios leveled up too, like Warner Brothers with Looney Tunes, Batman, Batman Begins, and Superman, and Fox Kids with Spider-Man, X-Men, and many others, and Disney with plenty of titles. And Japan also reached the West with many series. Now I won't go deep into those studios. I'll focus on Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon because they matter most for our video. Let's move into the 2000s. We hit the 2000s and tons of projects started rolling out, with tech leveling up big time. Disney rolled out 2D kid-focused films like The Emperor's New Groove, and Flash showed up, the software later acquired by Adobe. Flash helped a lot. Instead of drawing frame by frame, you could build the character once and animate it by joints inside the software without losing quality. That empowered small studios and even solo creators to make cartoons themselves at lower cost and faster speed, also breaking Disney's dominance over the industry. In that period, the internet started to show up, but it was slow, and it would play a bigger role later. As for Nickelodeon, its fame skyrocketed, especially with Jimmy Neutron arriving as a film and later turning into a series. Also, My Life as a Teenage Robot, and most importantly, Avatar: The Last Airbender, which became an iconic cartoon with an anime spirit, alongside The Fairly Odd Parents and many other shows like these titles. In that same window, SpongeBob became its most famous show and the biggest moneymaker. Meanwhile, Rugrats kept getting milked for years, but ended, and with it shows like Chalk Zone, Teenage Robot, and Invader Zim stopped. Still, SpongeBob hit theaters for the first time in 2004. But the bigger story was the strong competition with Cartoon Network, which delivered heavy hitters like Samurai Jack, which won an Emmy, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Codename, Kids Next Door, and the cartoon I personally love, Teen Titans. Of course, there were other shows too, some of them flopped, but the most important show was Ben 10, which cracked open brand new wins for the network, while the classics kept thriving like Courage the Cowardly Dog, the Powerpuff Girls, Ed, Edd, and Eddy. As for Disney, it had several standout titles in that stretch, and anime leveled up massively in that phase with legendary series. At the same time, new studios started popping up and shaking the market, such as Blue Sky Studios with Ice Age, which put the studio on the map. DreamWorks with Shrek, the first animated film to win an Oscar. Pixar, which kept winning with films like Monsters, Finding Nemo, The Incredibles. The animation world kept evolving in that period, and every channel pushed new productions to pull in audiences. Nickelodeon launched several new shows. Cartoon Network kept rolling out more series that became fan favorites for kids and teens. And the big one, Ben 10, Alien Force, the entry that pulled in a whole new crowd of action and sci-fi fans. Meanwhile, Disney dropped other notable hits like Phineas and Ferb, which became one of its most successful shows, and more. And in a key move, Disney also launched a new channel for kids and teens called Disney XD, positioning it as a hub for animation. With the rise of the internet and the spread of YouTube, the world hit a massive turning point in how cartoons traveled. TV channels were no longer the only source. They started posting short clips and promos online, and in parallel, people could upload full episodes through piracy, which pushed cartoons to way wider audiences, especially in countries where these works weren't officially available. Even simple fan-made videos that stitched cartoon moments to music boosted popularity in a big way, alongside the growth of torrents that made episodes easy to grab. At the same time, major channels began building official websites packed with flash games and sometimes full episodes, and streaming platforms appeared, Hulu first, then Netflix, opening the door for easier, broader access. A new wave of internet-born cartoons also emerged, letting independent creators break into animation from the front door. On the tech side, this stage saw huge leaps in animation techniques. Feature films leaned almost entirely on CGI, while most TV cartoons shifted to a hybrid pipeline that blended hand-drawn style with computer-driven motion. Characters were illustrated in a traditional look, but the actual animation was handled fully on a computer, turning hand-drawn into more of a style to preserve the artistic vibe. During this stretch, we also got a stack of legendary animated films that left a mark on cinema history, like Toy Story 3, Frozen, Inside Out, Kung Fu Panda 2, and How to Train Your Dragon, which later spun out into a full multi-season series. On the series front, new icons flipped the industry on its head. Adventure Time became one of the most influential cartoons ever. Regular Show hit big, and Steven Universe brought a fresh voice in storytelling and visuals. Nickelodeon still leaned mainly on SpongeBob, which remained its most successful and longest-running juggernaut, with other pushes like The Legend of Korra and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles holding solid ground. In parallel, Disney fired back with strong contenders such as Phineas and Ferb and the powerhouse Gravity Falls, which grew into one of the decade's most acclaimed and beloved shows. And during that period, Cartoon Network started making shows not just for kids, but for everyone. Like the legendary The Amazing World of Gumball, Clarence, and Over the Garden Wall, and it was clear CN was stronger than Nickelodeon in that era. At the same time, a bunch of different series popped up from various studios, but TV back then began losing steam step by step to the internet, which kept taking over, especially after many series moved to Disney XD, and with Netflix stepping in hard after 2010 until, by 2020, it became a major player. That phase was when production leaned fully on computers. Simpler looking shows appeared, We Bare Bears and Teen Titans Go, while CGI tech got smoother and cheaper. With Netflix in the mix, it started producing its own originals like Troll Hunters, and pretty much everything shifted online, with traditional TV almost disappearing. Cartoon Network clearly leveled up its output and proved it was the powerhouse then, with shows like OKO Let's Be Heroes, Craig of the Creek, and Infinity Train, which began as a pilot before going full series. Nickelodeon tried to keep up with the Loud House, but stayed the weaker player, while Disney kept its strength with the Owl House and Amphibia. Meanwhile, Netflix carved out a special spot thanks to several strong titles like these. What really defined that stretch was how cartoons shifted to serialized, interconnected stories. Unlike the old purely episodic style, we got iconic works like Steven Universe, Amphibia, and the Owl House. As animation moved almost entirely off TV and onto the internet, YouTube became essential, spreading clips and memes that turned shows like Adventure Time, Steven Universe, and Gumball into full-on meme culture. Kids and teens could discover upcoming series without parking in front of the TV. Even better, streamers began dropping full seasons at once, which wasn't common before, plus some Disney x Netflix co-productions like these, making content more diverse and globally accessible. Cartoon Network tried to keep pace by rolling out new shows fast, especially reboots. That's where global nostalgia culture blew up, people returning to classic cartoons and launching YouTube channels for reviews, nostalgia, and analysis, exactly like what I'm doing now. After 2020, everything went online, and new important titles showed up, and through it all, SpongeBob kept going, while Nickelodeon kept milking it, along with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and The Loud House, and spun off projects like The Patrick Star Show. As for Cartoon Network, it's still producing, but honestly, most shows were weaker. The best of the bunch were Adventure Time, Distant Lands, and Fiona and Cake, which were spin-offs to begin with. Disney, meanwhile, went all in on platforms, moving its films and series there. Now studios are leaning even harder on reboots. It's gotten tougher to launch fresh hits, so they're reviving past winners, saying the new generation doesn't know the old classics and the longtime fans will return for nostalgia. But they don't realize that can mess with our memories of the originals. Standouts include Ben 10, The Powerpuff Girls, and Teen Titans Go. We also got continuations like Hey Arnold with a movie, Samurai Jack, and Rugrats, plus spin-offs like The Patrick Star Show and Adventure Time, Fiona and Cake, and Gumball Season 7, again. I still haven't watched it yet, so wait for the video I'll drop once I'm done. It's obvious the most recent era isn't as strong as the past. Everyone's leaning on old legacy instead of delivering brand new legends. Now the audience lives online, fueled by nostalgia, while TV channels basically vanished. And even on the internet they're weak, which today feel more like nostalgic symbols than real players. And in the end, here we are, me making this video while we relive the full journey of animation on YouTube, which became our platform to follow, explain, and bring back those memories. The world of cartoons is still alive, and there are definitely new stories on the way. Thanks for sticking with me to the end. That's everything I had on the evolution of animation. And yeah, I wish I could dive deeper into the 2000s, but time's tight. I really hope you enjoy this video. It was a ton of work, but I loved making it because it brought back precious memories. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a like, and I'll see you in the next one.